I'm Indycar Dad. I try to have fun with Indycar races. Some people think I'm a bit obsessed, but I actually am having a great time, so why would I stop? Recently, I read the entire Indycar rulebook. There's 108 pages. I took notes, though, and here are the 10 weirdest rules in the Indycar rulebook. The first rule has to do with substitute drivers. On road courses, you can substitute anybody at any time, even at the last minute, just before the race. Not during the race, but just before the race. But on oval roads, since the speeds are so high and the cars are so close together, any substitute driver would have to have had participated in any prior session that weekend. So you can't just bring someone in as a specialist. So if someone's injured in like a final practice or something like that, the car is not going to be able to race because they won't have an eligible driver to drive it. So second weirdest rule, cars cannot look the same as other cars. Have to find 4 areas that their car is different. It could be like the mirrors or the end plate of the wings or something like that. But cars cannot look identical to one another. So if you have a driver you like and he has a teammate, just look for the differences between the two, usually wing end plates and that type of thing. 3, backup cars. When I watched IndyCar as a kid, there were backup cars. If someone crashed it, they'd just roll out another one. But that's been disallowed and for quite some time, I guess. And right now, cars can have like a backup chassis, but it's not allowed to have an engine installed in it. In fact, we'll talk about engines and how many engines the teams have in their possession soon. So it's interesting. There really are no backup cars, but they can have spare parts, spare tubs, and that type of thing in the transporter. So, also, it has to remain in the transporter. It can't be out in the pits just ready to go. So. Fourth interesting rule, there are no ties in IndyCar. At no position can there possibly be a tie. If time in scoring says the 2 cars came across the start-finish line at the exact same time, they will go back to the prior lap, and whoever was leading that lap will be awarded the further position. So, no ties. All right. Here's something interesting. We all know that the field right now is 27 cars is kind of the cap, and there's 25 chartered teams. But what would happen if a 26th car showed up? Well, in road racing, what happens is they'd have this crazy sort of pre-qualifying where any non-chartered cars, so 20 cars, 26th, 7th, 8th, 9th, would go out there and they'd do 2 laps around the track, and the fastest lap they turn would be used, slowest cars, fastest 2 cars in the race. So I'd love to see that happen. I hope somebody brings an extra car one day to a road course and we'll just see what happens. So here's another rule. Did you know that if you get a penalty, and say a penalty that affects your track position, say you get sent to the back of the field for doing something wrong, and during a caution, you cannot stop into the pits during that time period. You have to wait till the green flag falls before you can go into the pits. So if you get sent to the back of the field, you can't just pit for tires and gas and get some advantage of it. So it's a really fair rule that I kind of like. So penalties keep you from pitting under yellow. So here's a rule that you probably never thought of, but there's a rule about how any electronic controls that the drivers use, say they push a button to do speed limiter or something like that, that button, any single driver input can only do one thing. So for example, if the driver wants to change the cross weight jacker, plus they also want to change the brake bias or anti-roll bar for a different corner, they can't do all of those things with just the push of a button. They actually have to adjust each thing as a separate unit. There are other race series where the driver can just push a button, I'm going to the next corner, set it up, set the differential and the suspension up for the next corner, boom, 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 boom. But IndyCar drivers work a lot harder. They're moving things, they're pushing buttons, they're adjusting things just to get into the position. And in Indianapolis, they're doing it 4 times a lap. So pretty wild. 8th rule, teams are only given one engine at a time. So if the engine has failed and they want another one, they have to go to IndyCar and say, hey, we need another engine. And IndyCar will only give them the new engine when they're taking the old one out. So there's no like couple engines hanging out. They get 4 engines a year. but they don't really get 4 at a time. They only get 1 engine at a time. Here's another thing about engines. The manufacturers make a bunch of engines, and then Indycar takes them and assigns them randomly to a team. So everybody that thinks like Honda might make, Takuma Sato a special engine for the Indy 500, those people don't understand how the engines are divvied up. If Honda did make a special engine, it was just as likely to end up in, Jacob Abel's car as it would be in Takuma Sato's car because they're assigned randomly. So that's pretty interesting, I thought. So, again, very fair. 9th one, IndyCar drivers wear earpieces to talk to their teams. You see them put them in, but those earpieces are actually supplied by Indycar, and they include accelerometers in them so they can measure the severity of a crash that a driver is subjected to, and severity like right here. How much does their head get moved around? And they can read the G-forces, and it's really important. So it's a great way for IndyCar to keep track of drivers, their safety, and their possible concussions. So. And then 10th rule that was really interesting is drivers have their own seat. You probably know that, but they're poured to fit. They're poured and made out of this foam. But what's interesting is that one driver cannot use a different driver's seat. You have to use your own seat. And if you're involved in a crash and the crash is over 65 Gs, the seat will get quarantined and removed, and you'll have to have a new seat and new belts too. So. There's a couple other areas we could look at. So teams are allowed to develop and mess with some areas of the car. You always hear about dampers, but there's more areas, and I'll do a separate video about that. And then the final thing that's interesting in the rule book is there's a whole slew of rules for the month of May in the Indy 500, and I'll try to do a separate video about that. So thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. I'll keep updating with some interesting IndyCar stuff that you probably won't find anywhere else. Thanks.
Hey guys, this is Felix Rosenquist. Subscribe to IndyCar Dad.
Thanks, George.